The Empress's palace floated silently above the glowing blue planet of Virelia, its massive towers shining like crystals in the light of the twin suns. Ships of all shapes and sizes moved through the space lanes, guarding the palace with precision. The people of her empire called her the Shining Star, not just for her beauty but for her unyielding power. She ruled with a firm hand, and no one dared to challenge her. Inside the grand halls, the Empress walked with a confident, almost regal stride. Her skin shimmered like molten silver, her eyes glowing faintly, in a color no human could name. Every movement she made demanded attention. Courtiers bowed, soldiers snapped to attention, and advisors whispered constantly to ensure they never angered her. Yet, despite her power, she carried an air of boredom. Life at the top, she thought, was often lonely. Most of her court were careful sycophants, always agreeing with her and never challenging her mind. Ethan stood quietly in the corner, watching. He was a human, one of the few humans allowed in the palace, and one of the newest guards. Timid, small in stature, and always nervous around the towering alien soldiers, he often felt invisible. That was exactly how he preferred it. Humans were not considered strong or important in this alien empire. They were tolerated, sometimes used for menial tasks, and most aliens thought them weak and unremarkable. Ethan had learned long ago that keeping quiet and observing was the best way to survive. This morning, however, things would change. The Empress's grand ceremony was in full swing. A delegation from a neighboring star system had arrived, and the palace was packed with guests, soldiers, and dignitaries. Crystal chandeliers floated above the marble floors, casting rainbow-colored reflections in every direction. The Empress stood on a raised platform, her presence commanding the attention of everyone. Her voice echoed through the hall, calm but firm, as she addressed the visitors. Ethan's job was simple: guard the northern entrance, stay alert, do not draw attention, and follow orders. He had memorized the patrol routes, the emergency signals, and the strict rules about palace conduct. Still, his heart pounded under his chest plate, and his hands trembled slightly as he adjusted his gloves. He reminded himself to breathe slowly. "I am a human guard," he whispered to himself. "I may be small, but I can be careful. I can do this." That was when it happened. A sudden commotion erupted near the central hall. A group of saboteurs had infiltrated the ceremony, disguised as servants. They moved quickly, blending with the crowd, their intent obvious to a trained eye. One wrong step, and the Empress could be in grave danger. Most of the palace guards noticed too late. Panic spread among the human servants, and a loud alarm began to echo. Ethan froze for only a moment. His instincts kicked in. He dashed forward, grabbing the nearest saboteur before the alien soldiers could react. The saboteur struggled, but Ethan's grip was firm. He shoved the intruder aside, holding him until a taller alien guard arrived to secure the group. In the chaos, he also noticed another saboteur attempting to climb a side balcony, and with a well-aimed throw, he knocked him off balance until another soldier captured him. The crowd did not notice what had happened. The saboteurs were quickly removed, and the ceremony continued as if nothing had occurred. But the Empress had noticed. Her sharp eyes, which missed nothing, had caught Ethan's actions. The courage it took for a timid human to act decisively in front of so many powerful aliens intrigued her. After the ceremony, she withdrew to her private chambers. Normally, the guards would not approach her, but today, Ethan's name was mentioned by the chief of palace security. The Empress raised a silver eyebrow. "Bring him here," she said, her voice calm but laced with authority. "I want to meet the human who acted without hesitation today." Ethan's stomach dropped. Being summoned by the Empress could mean many things, most of them dangerous. He had heard stories of those who angered her, humans and aliens alike, disappearing from the palace forever. He swallowed hard and followed the escorting officer down the grand corridor. Every step he took echoed in the marble hall, and he imagined the whispers of the court following him. When he entered the Empress's chambers, he felt as if he had stepped into a different world. The walls were lined with glowing crystals that pulsed softly, and the floor seemed to ripple like liquid glass. The Empress sat on her throne, her silver armor gleaming even in the soft light. She studied him with sharp eyes, not hostile, but curious. "You are the human who acted today," she said, her voice low and smooth. "Tell me, why did you intervene?" Ethan swallowed nervously. I saw the threat, and I thought I could help. I didn't want anyone to get hurt." His voice was quiet, almost trembling. The Empress tilted her head, studying him. Most aliens would never consider such an act without thought of reward or recognition. Courage without ambition, bravery without pride, these were qualities rare in any being, even in her own kind. Yet here was a human, timid and small, who acted instinctively, guided only by conscience. "Interesting," she murmured. "Most humans are careful, timid, fearful. Yet you acted as though your life meant little compared to duty. Do you understand what you risked?" "Yes, Your Excellency," Ethan replied. I didn't think about the risk. I just wanted to help." A small, almost imperceptible smile flickered across the Empress's face. "You are not like the others," she said softly. "You are different." Ethan felt a flush rise to his cheeks. He could not comprehend why the Empress would speak to him this way. Most humans in the palace would be punished for such attention. But she did not seem angry. Not even slightly. The Empress rose from her throne and walked closer, her eyes never leaving him. Ethan instinctively stepped back, his heart hammering. She stopped just a few paces away, studying him as if she were trying to read his soul. "You will remain in the palace," she finally said. "I want to observe you more closely. There is potential in you, human." "Yes, Your Excellency," Ethan managed to say. He could barely breathe, overwhelmed by the weight of her presence. Over the next few days, Ethan found himself under subtle observation. The Empress watched him from her private balcony, sent small tasks that required courage or intelligence, and tested his patience in ways that most humans would have found exhausting. Yet Ethan performed quietly, never seeking praise or reward. His humility only deepened the Empress's fascination. One afternoon, a minor crisis occurred. A group of young aliens accidentally caused a chemical spill in one of the palace laboratories. Panic spread as the fumes began to fill the corridor. Aliens screamed, guards shouted, and many ran in fear. Ethan, remembering his training, took action. He guided the young aliens to safety, used emergency controls to contain the spill, and ensured no one was harmed. By the time the Empress arrived, the situation was under control. She observed from a distance, her arms crossed. She could see the sweat on his brow, the careful precision in his actions, and the quiet determination that had saved many lives. For the first time, she felt a strange warmth, a mixture of admiration and something she could not name. Later that evening, she summoned him again. Ethan approached cautiously, unsure of what to expect. "You have done well," she said simply. "You act without fear, without concern for reward. That is rare." She paused, her eyes searching his face. "Tell me, human, do you understand what it means to be brave?" Ethan thought for a moment. I think bravery is not about being fearless. It's about doing what is right, even when you are afraid." The Empress's eyes widened slightly. His words, so simple and honest, struck her in a way few had ever done. She had heard speeches, declarations, and promises from thousands of subjects, but this human spoke with a truth that resonated deep within her. "Perhaps you are more than I expected," she murmured. And in that moment, a connection was formed, subtle, unspoken, yet undeniable. A timid human guard had caught the attention of the most powerful being in the galaxy, and neither could ignore the spark that had begun to form. As Ethan returned to his quarters that night, he could not shake the feeling of being watched. Not in a threatening way, but with curiosity and something gentler. For the first time in his life, he felt noticed, not for his size, not for his human frailty, but for his courage and heart. High above, in her throne room, the Empress gazed at the stars. She thought of the small human who dared to act without fear, who moved quietly but carried the strength of character that many of her own people lacked. She felt a stirring in her chest, a mixture of pride, curiosity, and an unfamiliar softness. She knew the court would never approve. They would see him as weak, unworthy, and foolish. Yet she could not stop thinking about him, and so, in the quiet of the vast palace, a haughty alien empress began to watch a timid human guard, intrigued by something she had never expected to find, a heart that could match her own. Little did either of them know, the bond that began that day would soon grow in ways neither could have imagined, challenging traditions, expectations, and even the rules of the galaxy itself. The days passed quietly at first, but the presence of the timid human guard, Ethan, began to ripple through the palace in subtle ways. The Empress could not stop thinking about him. She had seen courage in countless warriors, wisdom in countless scholars, but the quiet human fascinated her differently. He did not seek recognition, he did not boast, and yet his small actions often made a difference bigger than anyone expected. Ethan, for his part, remained cautious. He followed orders, did his duties, and avoided drawing unnecessary attention. Still, he felt the Empress watching him more than usual. At first, it frightened him. Being noticed by the most powerful being in the galaxy could bring praise or punishment. Yet, over time, he realized that her attention was different. One afternoon, she summoned him for a private walk through the palace gardens. The gardens were unlike anything Ethan had ever seen. Bioluminescent plants glowed softly in the air. Exotic birds with translucent wings flitted between crystalline trees, and pools reflected the twin suns above like liquid mirrors. The Empress led him along the pathways with a grace that made him feel almost weightless. "You do not speak much," she said quietly. "Why?" Ethan hesitated. I do not want to say something wrong. I do not belong here. I am just a human guard." Her silver eyes softened for a moment, an expression rare for one so proud. "You do not belong here?" she asked, almost in disbelief. "You are here because you were needed. You were brave when others hesitated. That counts for more than titles, or bloodlines, or strength." Ethan looked down at his boots, feeling small under her gaze. I just do what I can." The Empress studied him. There was honesty in his words, a lack of pretense. Most beings would speak with ambition or lies to gain favor. Yet this human was honest. That alone fascinated her. She had spent centuries surrounded by lies, flattery, and deception. Suddenly, this human was a new experience, something real. Over the next weeks, the Empress tested him quietly. She assigned him tasks no one else could handle, situations that required both courage and intelligence. Ethan handled each challenge quietly and efficiently, whether it was coordinating the palace security during a sudden alert or helping a group of alien scholars with a dangerous experiment. He did it without complaint. The more he proved himself, the more the Empress found herself thinking of him. She began seeking excuses to see him, asking for reports, suggesting private discussions, even having him accompany her on ceremonial walks. The court began to notice, though they said nothing aloud. Whispers filled the corridors. Aliens found it unusual, even inappropriate, for the ruler of their empire to show such attention to a human. Ethan felt the weight of these glances. He noticed the subtle change in the other guards, the curious stares of the scholars, and the whispers of the servants. Yet despite the pressure, he remained steadfast. He was loyal, but he had begun to care, in his quiet way, for the Empress as well. One day, as they walked near a crystal waterfall in the gardens, the Empress asked a question that surprised him. "Human, do you ever think about loyalty?" Ethan thought for a moment. "I think loyalty means standing by someone even when it is hard, even when others do not understand." The Empress paused, her glowing eyes studying him carefully. "And would you do that? For someone like me?" Ethan's heart beat faster, but he answered honestly. "If I thought it was right, yes." The Empress remained silent for a long moment, her mind racing. Most beings in her court would not say that. Most would follow out of fear or obligation. But this human, he spoke from his heart, and that truth, that courage to act with honesty and integrity, stirred something within her, a feeling she had not expected. Days later, the palace faced a crisis. A distant faction attempted an attack on the Empress's palace, sending small, stealth ships to infiltrate the defenses. The alarms rang, and chaos erupted. Alien soldiers rushed to stations, but the attack was clever and unexpected. A group of saboteurs managed to sneak into a supply corridor, threatening the safety of the palace and its occupants. Ethan did not hesitate. He quickly gathered a group of young guards, humans and aliens alike, and moved to intercept the saboteurs. Using clever tactics, he outsmarted the attackers, cutting off their escape and containing the threat until the main forces arrived. His calm under pressure, his quick thinking, and his courage saved many lives. When the Empress arrived moments later, she observed quietly from above. She had seen many skilled warriors, but none had acted with such precision, courage, and humility all at once. Most would have charged recklessly or sought personal glory. Ethan did what needed to be done, quietly and efficiently, thinking of others before himself. After the crisis, she summoned him to her chambers once again. Ethan approached cautiously, unsure what awaited him. He expected orders, perhaps praise, but he did not know what else might come from one so powerful and unpredictable. "You have done well," the Empress said simply. "You saved lives today. Not for honor, not for reward, but because it was right. That is rare. More rare than you may know." Ethan bowed slightly. "I did what I could, Your Excellency." She studied him for a moment. "Tell me, human, have you ever thought about what it means to be courageous? Or, I think courage is not about being fearless," Ethan said. "It is about doing what is right, even when you are afraid, even when no one else will." Her eyes widened slightly. His words were simple, but they carried a depth that touched her in ways no speech or ceremony ever could. She realized that this human, small and timid as he appeared, held strength in his heart that rivaled the greatest warriors of her empire. From that day, their relationship began to change. She sought his counsel in small matters, asking for his opinion on minor decisions, testing him in ways that made him think carefully. He answered honestly, without flattery or fear, and each time, the Empress found herself respecting him more. Respect grew into fascination, and fascination slowly turned into something else, something she had not felt in centuries. Ethan, in turn, felt a strange warmth when he was near her. At first, he thought it was fear or awe, but as they spent more time together, he realized it was admiration and curiosity. He had always believed that humans were weak, that they could not measure up to alien civilizations, and yet here he was, standing beside one of the most powerful beings in the galaxy, treated as more than insignificant. One evening, they found themselves alone in the observation deck, looking out at the stars. The Empress spoke softly, her usual commanding tone replaced by something gentler. "You are unlike any human I have known," she said. "Most are fearful, self-centered, or weak. Yet you act with integrity, courage, and humility. I do not understand it, but I cannot ignore it." Ethan felt a nervous flush rise to his cheeks. I am just trying to do my best, Your Excellency. I do not know what makes me different." "Perhaps it is not what makes you different," she replied, "but what makes you real, honest, unafraid to be yourself." Their eyes met, and for the first time, the Empress felt a stirring in her heart she could not name. It was not power, nor control, nor ambition. It was something softer, warmer, and unexpectedly comforting. She did not understand it, yet she could not stop feeling it. The following days brought subtle tension to the palace. The court began to whisper, noting the unusual closeness between the Empress and the human guard. Some of the advisors warned her, reminding her of the strict rules that forbade such attachments. Others mocked the idea outright. But the Empress paid them no heed. She had begun to see Ethan not as a human under her protection, but as someone remarkable in his own right. Ethan noticed the subtle changes too, the way the Empress would linger near him, the rare moments of gentle attention, the quiet questions about his thoughts and feelings. He did not understand what it meant, but he began to trust her, and in return, he found a courage he had never known before. Then, a minor accident in the palace courtyard tested both of them. A young alien child fell into a shallow energy pit, panicking and unable to escape. Alien guards hesitated, unsure of the danger, but Ethan reacted instantly. He jumped into the pit, carefully lifting the child to safety, using both skill and care. The Empress, observing from above, felt a surge of admiration and something more profound. Here was a human, small and seemingly fragile, acting with bravery and heart in a way few others could. Afterward, she summoned him privately once more. "You continue to surprise me," she said softly. "Your actions. They do not come from fear, or desire for recognition, or even duty alone. There is something noble about you. I cannot define it, yet I cannot ignore it." Ethan bowed. I just try to do what is right, Your Excellency. I do not expect anything in return." The Empress's gaze softened, her pride mixing with a strange, unfamiliar warmth. "And yet, I find myself thinking of you constantly." Ethan's heart skipped a beat, though he did not fully understand why. In the quiet of the palace night, as the twin suns set behind the horizon of Virelia, a bond began to form between a timid human guard and a proud alien Empress. Neither fully understood it yet. But it was real, undeniable, and destined to change both of their lives in ways neither could foresee. The Empress, for all her pride and power, felt something new stirring in her heart, a connection she could not control, a fascination she could not ignore. And Ethan, for all his fear and self-doubt, began to find courage in unexpected ways, inspired by a ruler who had begun to see him as more than just a human guard. The galaxy outside remained vast and dangerous, but within the walls of the shining palace, a quiet and extraordinary friendship was blossoming. And as the stars gleamed above, neither the Empress nor the timid human guard could guess how deeply their paths would intertwine in the days to come. The palace of the Empress shone brighter than ever under the twin suns of Virelia. Its towers gleamed like molten silver, and the gardens sparkled with bioluminescent plants, casting soft light across every walkway. Yet, behind the beauty and order, tension simmered. Rumors in the court had grown louder. Some whispered about the unusual closeness between the Empress and the human guard, Ethan. Others warned of rebellion, claiming that no human deserved such attention from the ruler of the galaxy. The Empress ignored the whispers. She had watched many rise and fall, controlled empires and commanded fleets. But nothing had captivated her like the small, quiet human who moved among the palace guards. His courage, his honesty, and his quiet intelligence had changed her in ways she could not fully understand. Ethan, for his part, remained humble. He carried out his duties, helped the staff, and continued to show courage whenever required. Yet he could not deny the strange warmth he felt when the Empress looked at him, or the way his heart raced when she asked for his opinion, or the subtle way she seemed to trust him more than any other guard. Then the threat arrived. It came without warning. A fleet of enemy ships from a rival star system appeared in the orbit of Virelia, moving quickly and silently. Their purpose was clear. The Empress was the target. Their aim was not just conquest, it was to capture or destroy the ruler who had united countless star systems under her reign. The palace erupted into action. Alien guards rushed to their stations. Ships took to the skies, and alarms echoed through every hall. The Empress remained calm, issuing commands with her usual precision, yet even she could not hide the worry in her eyes. This was no ordinary attack. It was clever, coordinated, and deadly. Ethan was assigned to lead a group of guards to secure the outer perimeter. For the first time, he felt the full weight of responsibility. Hundreds of lives, the safety of the Empress, and the future of the palace rested on his small team. His hands shook slightly as he prepared, but he reminded himself of the lessons he had learned, the courage he had discovered within himself, the quiet strength that had caught the Empress's attention weeks ago. The battle began. Enemy ships approached, firing energy beams that cut through space with deadly precision. Alien soldiers in the palace engaged in combat, using shields and advanced weapons to protect the civilians and the Empress. Ethan's team moved through the chaos with skill and discipline. He coordinated his human and alien guards, guiding them through the corridors, securing exits, and intercepting saboteurs who tried to slip past defenses. At one point, a group of enemy infiltrators breached the palace gates. Ethan reacted instantly, using strategy over brute force. He directed his team to create a defensive line, outsmarting the attackers and preventing them from reaching the inner sanctum where the Empress waited. Despite the chaos, his calm, quick thinking kept many alive. The Empress observed from above, her eyes sharp, her mind analyzing every move. She had fought countless battles, commanded fleets, and seen countless warriors. But Ethan's performance surprised her. The timid human who had seemed so small and uncertain had become the central figure in defending her palace. Courage, she realized, was not measured by size, strength, or reputation. It was measured by action, heart, and the will to protect others. After hours of tense fighting, the enemy was repelled. The palace stood intact, the civilians safe, and the Empress unscathed. Yet she did not immediately celebrate. Instead, she sought Ethan. She found him standing in the courtyard, exhausted, clothes torn, and face streaked with dirt and sweat. He looked up when she approached. Bowing slightly, "You have done more than anyone could have expected," she said quietly, her voice carrying both admiration and something warmer that Ethan could not yet name. "You have saved countless lives today, human. Not for glory, not for reward, but because it was right. That is extraordinary." Ethan shook his head, humility written across his face. I only did what I had to do. I was just a guard." The Empress stepped closer, her eyes locking onto his. "No, you were more than that. You acted with courage, intelligence, and heart. You have proven yourself worthy of trust. And more than that, worthy of my respect." Ethan felt a warmth rise to his cheeks. He had never heard such words from anyone, let alone from the most powerful being in the galaxy. His mind raced, and yet he could only manage a quiet, "Thank you, Your Excellency." The Empress smiled. A rare, genuine smile. "You have changed something in me, human," she said softly. I did not expect to feel this way. Yet I cannot deny it." Ethan's eyes widened slightly, though he did not fully understand her meaning. "Feel what, Your Excellency?" The Empress paused, her gaze thoughtful. "Admiration, fascination, perhaps something closer to affection. I do not fully understand it myself, but I cannot ignore it. You are unlike any human I have known. And yet, I find myself drawn to you." Ethan's heart raced. He had never imagined that a powerful alien ruler could feel this way about him, a timid human guard. He struggled to find words, but none seemed adequate. Instead, he bowed once more, respect and awe mixing in his expression. "You honor me, Your Excellency," he said quietly. I never imagined that someone like you could." "Do not worry about it," the Empress interrupted gently. "Words are not needed. Actions are enough, and your actions have spoken louder than any words could." Over the next days, their bond deepened. The Empress began seeking Ethan's company more openly, and he, in turn, began to understand her thoughts, her moods, and the pressures of ruling an empire. Their conversations grew longer, more personal. He learned of the loneliness that came with absolute power, and she learned of the courage it took for a human to live among beings so much stronger, larger, and faster. Yet not everyone approved. Members of the court whispered, some openly criticized, others tried to subtly influence the Empress to distance herself from the human, but she paid them no heed. She had faced rebellion, treachery, and betrayal countless times. Their opinions mattered little compared to the truth she saw in Ethan, the strength, the heart, the integrity that no one else possessed. Then, a final test arrived. A rival faction from across the galaxy, furious at their previous defeat, launched a surprise attack on the palace, larger and more dangerous than before. This time, the threat was undeniable. Ships bombarded the outer defenses, saboteurs infiltrated the palace, and panic spread quickly. Ethan did not hesitate. He coordinated defenses, guided civilians to safety, and led a team of guards to intercept the enemy. Using clever tactics, quick thinking, and calm leadership, he outmaneuvered the attackers at every turn. He placed himself in danger repeatedly, saving lives with bravery and selflessness. The Empress watched, her heart pounding. She had commanded fleets, battled enemies across countless systems, and yet she found herself moved to an intensity she could not fully understand. Here was a human, small and timid as he appeared, yet capable of acts that rivaled the greatest warriors of her empire. When the battle ended, and the enemy fled, the palace remained intact. The Empress descended to the courtyard, moving quickly to where Ethan stood. Tired, but unbroken, the court was silent. All eyes on the two of them. "You have done it again," she said, her voice calm but filled with emotion. "You have proven yourself not only brave, but brilliant. Your courage, your heart, and your actions have saved countless lives and preserved this palace. And now, you have proven something else." Ethan looked at her, unsure. I only did my duty, Your Excellency." She shook her head. "No. You have done more than duty. You have shown me that courage can come from the smallest of beings, that loyalty can surpass fear, and that strength is not measured by size or power but by heart. And, you have shown me, love is not bound by rank, species, or expectation." The courtyard fell silent. Aliens and humans alike watched, some in awe, some in disbelief. Yet the Empress made no apology, no retreat. She reached out, gently touching Ethan's shoulder. "You, human, have captured something in me I did not know existed, and I cannot ignore it any longer." Ethan felt his heart swell. The timid guard, once unsure of his place in this vast alien world, now stood beside the Empress, recognized not just for courage, but for heart, loyalty, and soul. I do not know what to say." "Your Excellency," he whispered. "Then say nothing," she replied with a soft smile. "Actions, not words, will guide us now." From that day forward, the bond between the haughty Empress and the timid human guard became known to the palace. The court was shocked, but the Empress's authority was unchallenged. She had chosen courage, integrity, and heart over tradition and expectation. And Ethan had stepped beyond fear, doubt, and timidity to stand beside her, not as a mere guard, but as someone who had earned trust, respect, and something far greater. Together, they looked out at the stars. Twin suns burned brightly above, reflecting off the palace towers, painting the world in gold and silver. They had faced danger, doubt, and expectation. Yet they stood together. The Empress had learned that even the proudest being could be moved by honesty and courage, and Ethan had learned that even the smallest human, with heart and bravery, could inspire love and awe in the most powerful ruler in the galaxy. The galaxy was vast, full of danger and mystery. But within the palace of Virelia, a new story had begun. A story of courage, respect, and love that defied expectation, tradition, and the boundaries between worlds. And as they stood together, silent but united, both the Empress and the human guard knew that their bond would change not only their lives but the future of the empire itself.